Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, doing JMA Friday for today's first video. So as always on a Friday, we've got our month ahead look ahead, and it's going to take us just into the start of October. So at the moment, we're sort of seesawing between drier, warmer periods and more unsettled and cooler periods, all very typical of September, really, as you transition from summer to autumn. It's not a straightforward process, so you'll get throwbacks to summer as you generally trend in towards autumn. That's what's been going on over the past few days. We'll see whether it's set to continue for the next month. Obviously, we are going to go further on into the autumn, and we can expect things to get progressively more autumnal, of course, as we move on. But we'll see what the JMA and CFS V2 models have got to say in a moment. Coming up this afternoon on the homepage, or here on the homepage, we're going to have our week to 10-day update. We'll have a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic as well, in terms of the storms and hurricanes. So all of that will be coming up for you this afternoon. But kicking it all off today is JMA Friday. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from the North Pole view down, broken down into week periods. This is the North Pole of the Northern Hemisphere, just there, mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere. Around there. As I say, these are broken down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 7th through to the 14th of September. So we've got the yellow colours extrapolated to high pressure and blue colours extrapolating to low pressure. In the coming week, the JMA has this area of above average heights to our south, but we've got below average heights up to the north. And that brings in a westerly flow and a westerly jet stream, rather like that. So the driest of the conditions would be in the south. The most unsettled conditions would be in the north. But all places would have unsettled conditions, to be honest. Even in the south, you get a little bit of rain through at times. And overall, temperatures probably not overly exciting either. That's how things are looking in week 2. Quite a big change. This is the 14th through to 21st of September. We're taking the above average heights up to our north, with below average heights to the southeast of the country. So what that's doing is pulling the wind in from a more sort of northeasterly type direction. And that could be most unsettled conditions down in the south, actually. It could bring some quite wet weather to the south and the southeast, while the north could get the driest of the weather. And it is potentially quite a lot cooler as well, because the air between the high pressure to the north and the low pressure to the southeast is being squeezed in from a north to northeasterly direction. So quite cool and unsettled for that one in week 2. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, and another change taking us from the 21st of September to the 5th of October. This one has the below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, just there, with above average heights to the east of the country. A bit of a battle's going on here. We've got the low pressure in the Atlantic and the jet stream trying to move in from the west, but this area of high pressure to our east is trying to ward it off. So, difficult to say which way that will go, actually. It's probably quite unsettled overall, but if that area of above average heights is stronger to the east, then it could possibly be that high pressure is the dominating factor. Of course, by taking it through to October, high pressure to the east is not going to be anywhere near as warm as it is back in the summer, so that could actually be rather chilly if those winds do go into the east through the early part of October. Bear in mind, that's a 2-weekly anomaly, so it may be transitional. It could be something like week 3 is quite unsettled, and then week 4 trends towards high pressure over Scandinavia. Very difficult to say how it balances out in a 2-weekly anomaly, but certainly quite an interesting update from the JMA model this week, because all 4 weeks here, or the first 2 weeks and then weeks 3 and 4, they all look rather different. So quite a changeable sort of time of it coming up. This is how the tropical and mid-latitude view looks in terms of the temperature and precipitation anomalies, with British Isles in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. So we've got the above-average heights there to the west-southwest, with below-average heights up to the north. That brings in this flat westerly flow. Most unsettled conditions in the north, but even in the south you could get some unsettled conditions at times. Temperature anomalies are quite cool, actually, in the week ahead, coming out a little bit cooler than average there from the 7th through to the 14th of September. Meanwhile, the precipitation anomaly is rather above average, and even down in the south we have got slightly above average rainfall. So a pretty cool and pretty unsettled and quite wet week, actually, to start us off there with a westerly flow. Then we go through to week 2, and we're going to come over to this side of the chart to see this. Got the below average heights there to the southeast of the country, and you can't see the pole, the North Pole, but we have just seen that view anyway. We know there's above average heights sitting up to our north around there, and so the squeeze between the two, we thought it'd probably bring wind in from a northeasterly direction. This means that temperature anomalies remain cool, remain below average there through week 2, which is the 14th to the 21st of September. So all of a sudden, after so many weeks of warm weather, JMA now seems to be picking up on a trend towards a much cooler September. And as far as precipitation is concerned, so the north is actually a little bit drier than average across Scotland, England, Wales and Ireland come out a little bit wetter than average, so there's probably some sort of southerly tracking jet stream going on here. So around the middle of September, it looks like the wettest weather actually gets pushed into the south, and generally quite a cool northeasterly flow as well. Then we're through to weeks 3 and 4, which is the 21st of September to the 5th of October, with below average heights in the Atlantic just there, but above average heights to our east. So proper battles going on with the westerly flow trying to re-establish from the Atlantic, but also that area of above average heights trying to keep us in more of a continental easterly type flow as well. Temperature anomalies are lifting up here through weeks 3 and 4, going a little bit milder than average, presumably because the air is becoming more southeasterly. So that's starting to drag up some slightly milder air from central parts of Europe as well. But it still looks a bit unsettled. The precipitation anomaly here is again coming out above average. So a real change here with this update from the JMA this month, with all 4 weeks signalled to be above average with rainfall, and overall you have to say rather cool temperatures as well. This is a very big change on what the JMA has been showing in previous weeks. We'll see whether the CFS V2 is in agreement about this. So again, these are the 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 7th through to the 13th of September. Now, the coming week does actually look a lot like what the JMA is showing. So we've got the above average heights there to our south, with below average heights to the north, and we've got the flat westerly jet stream coming through the country as well. So that is rather a cool and rather unsettled week to start us off for the week ahead. But then a change compared to what the JMA is showing. This is week 2. It's the 14th to the 20th of September, and the above average heights have found their way back over the top of the UK, and they also extend back to this high pressure sitting up to our north, with below average heights in the Atlantic, and so the flow and the jet is doing something a bit like that. So high pressure comes back there through the 14th to 20th of September, unlike what the JMA is showing, which is a much cooler and much more unsettled scenario through week 2. So there are big differences between the JMA and the CFS as early as week 2. Week 3 also looks very different compared to what the JMA is doing. This is the 21st through 27th of September, with above average heights again over the UK and extending up towards Scandinavia. So this is a much more anticyclonic signal from the CFS compared to the JMA, with the below average heights up around Greenland, Iceland. The flow and the jet is going rather like that. So again, we're under high pressure there through week 2. The high pressure fest continues with CFS V2. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 28th of September to the 4th of October, with the above average heights now to our south-southwest. Below average heights are up to the north. And the flow is coming through rather like that with the westerly jet stream. So that's probably turning a little bit more unsettled and Atlantic driven there as we end September and go into October. So let's see how the temperature anomalies shape up. Week 1, it comes out a bit cooler than average in most parts of the country, just the 7th to 13th of September. So both models are in agreement that the coming week will be a bit cooler than average. Week 2 temperature anomaly is also looking rather cool, really, considering high pressure is in over the country. But bear in mind, by mid-September, high pressure does not necessarily guarantee really warm weather at all. In the middle of October, high pressure over top of the country can actually bring quite cold conditions with frost, depending on the exact nature of the origins of the high pressure and what the upper air temperatures are like. So it's not like in summer, it's not like in July, where high pressure will nearly always guarantee very warm or even hot weather really quickly. By this time of the year, by the time you're going into autumn, high pressure is not guaranteed to bring warm weather. And so although the CFS V2 wants that high pressure to be over country again from the 14th to 20th of September, temperature anomalies are not anything exciting. Close to average, a bit warmer than average to the south of the UK, and still a bit cooler than average up to the north. Week 3, which is the 21st, 27th of October, does actually go a little bit milder than average in that week. So into the second half of September, CFS wants to begin to lift those temperatures back up again. And then week 4, which is the 28th of September to the 4th of October, just coming out close to average, really, but warmer than average temperature anomalies are generally centred to our south. Looks like much of France, southern Central Europe, going to have a really warm 4 weeks of it, if CFS is right. But for us, actually, those temperature anomalies are really quite close to average and starting off pretty cool. Precipitation-wise, we're looking like this. Not as unsettled in week 1 as what the JMA is showing. The 7th to the 13th of September coming out close to average with the precipitation anomaly. Maybe a little bit wetter than average in the north. Week 2, which is the 14th, 20th of September, that one is coming out a little bit drier than average through most parts of the country. Week 3 also looks drier than average. So this is again a big change on what the JMA is showing. And then by the time we get through to week 4, which takes us into the beginning of October, it's going close to average. The south of the country is still close to drier than average conditions, but north possibly hinting at being a little bit more unsettled. So what do we make of that? We've got big discrepancies between the two models for the month ahead. Now, we're starting off in a very similar place with both of them. So for the coming week, it does look quite unsettled, looks rather cool as well. There will be some rain around at times. They're differing about how much. The JMA is a bit wetter than average in the week ahead, but CFS not as unsettled. But I think they're both very much in the same sort of area in terms of the pattern, which is rather cool and rather unsettled in the week ahead. Differences occur as early as week 2. The JMA looks cool and unsettled through the middle part of September, particularly so for the south. The CFS has a much stronger anticyclonic signal, and then they really do differ into the second half of the month, where the CFS again wants to have lots of dry, high pressure conditions, albeit not overly warm, but a lot of high pressure, a lot of dry conditions in the second half of September with CFS. The JMA looks a lot more unsettled as well into the second half of September. I suspect this is all indicative of uncertainty being caused by the tropics coming alive. It was a very quiet start to the Atlantic tropical storm and hurricane season. Things are really ramping up and developing with that now. And that will be creating a lot of uncertainty between both the shorter range models like the ECMWF and the GFS, but also the longer range models as well, like CFS and JMA. There'll be a lot of uncertainty within the model output, and I think that explains what's going on here. What I would say is that so far this September probably isn't shaping up as warm and dry as it first appeared like it would be a couple of weeks ago. So I'd probably tend to go a little bit more with the JMA with this. I don't think the CFS, with this continuous high pressure idea that it keeps coming up with, is performing all that well. It's stuck in a rut. It wants to get us into, or get us back into a pattern that we had through the summer, really. And I think so far we can say that this September has been a little bit more changeable than we anticipated, albeit for the south it hasn't been a wet month at all. It's been quite a dry month so far, but I think the trends are there to turn things more and more unsettled the further into the month we go. And so I'll probably tend to favour the JMA here over the CFS V2, but it is a very uncertain time due to these tropical storm development. September is always, I've said this time and again in the videos around this time of the year, September is always one of the hardest months, if not the hardest month, to forecast for, possibly with the exception of May. May also very often seems to be a very difficult month to forecast, but September is certainly up there with the very hardest months to forecast due to these tropical developments. And I think that's what's going on. I think that's what explains the uncertainty between the two models. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if anything, I'd tend to favour a little bit more of the JMA, which is cooler and more unsettled, because I think this September is not looking as dry and as warm as we possibly anticipated it would be a few days ago. Right, so that's your monthly look ahead done and dusted. It's all experimental. It's just for fun, not to be relied upon. Coming up this afternoon, we're going to have a look at the shorter range, and we will include him at a look at the tropics as well to see what's going on through the tropical Atlantic. So come back that this afternoon. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.